So this is a video, it was uploaded to Mr.Dapperton's channel, but it was made by a guy named Hoodie Demon, who I already covered back in the 2 Ancaps Try to Debunk Secular Talk video. But this is him being solo. Last time I covered him, it was a co-op with Esoteric Entity, so this is him on his own, not commentating on anyone. It's him giving 18 facts he feels statists need to know, and of course he defines status as anyone who isn't an anarcho-capitalist. So let's watch. Clearly, this man is a creepypasta monster.
Hello everyone, my name is Hoodie Demon.
Hello, Hoodie Demon.
Mr. Dapperton was kind enough to host this video for me, so if you like what you see, feel free to check me out. Link in the description to my channel. So without further ado, number 1. You cannot legislate the poor into prosperity by legislating the wealthy out of prosperity.
I do actually agree to some extent, but the problem is what welfare programs, which I believe he was referring to, actually do, is they attempt to give the poor at least more of a fighting chance to become prosperous at some point.
Number 2. What one person receives without working for, another person must work for without receiving. Number 3.
Okay, well, who is the person who receives it without working for it? Because that's a very important question here. Is it someone who can't work? If so, then yeah, I think they should receive something because they actively can't work. It's not just something that they actively did. It's because they were born with some sort of disability, making it so they can no longer work.
3.
Now, there are some exceptions. There are some people who do go on welfare and don't need it, and I do agree with you. Those people shouldn't be on welfare. However, to argue that they're the majority of people is wrong.
The government cannot give to anybody anything that the government does not first take from somebody else. Number 4.
Define take. Okay, that's like me saying, oh, well, a membership. Okay. Wait, isn't that the whole idea of capitalism? I just realized the whole idea of capitalism. Giving things to people that you took from someone else. It's like me saying, under capitalism, you can't give anything you haven't already taken. For that matter, it's such a blanket generalization. It can apply to anything, basically.
4. When half of the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half is going to take care of them, once the other half gets the idea that it does no good to work because somebody else is going to receive what they work for, that is where the downfall of society begins.
Okay, pretty much no one is a communist anymore, but okay.
Number 5. You simply cannot multiply wealth by dividing it.
Yeah, they're two different forms of math. You're right, if I take $1 and rip it up, I don't have $2. I have 50 cents each. That doesn't make any sense. I think what he's trying to go for is you can't take someone else's wealth and give it to a different person and then increase wealth. But wouldn't it make more sense to say you cannot add wealth by subtracting it? Or heck, you cannot add wealth to another person, to somebody, by subtracting it from another person. There. I have a statement that's actually somewhat coherent. Now, that statement is definitely, to an extent, wrong, but it's more coherent than, okay, you can't multiply wealth by square rooting it and dividing it by 7.
Number 6. A corporation is simply a business that is granted legal protection by the government. Therefore, if anything bad that happens involves a corporation in any way, that is the fault of the government, not the free market.
Hasn't the free market made it a corporation since it's expanded enough to become a corporation in the first place? I mean, I can't simply just call Ephrom Josine a corporation. It's nowhere near big enough. The free market made it a corporation, and whether or not what it does as a corporation is up to the free market or the government is debatable.
Number 7. You can wrap your argument in as many layers of appeal to emotion as you want.
But remember, taxation is theft.
But the fact of the matter is, no one is owed food, water, clothing, and shelter for simply existing.
Very few people are saying that. Now, what we are saying is that you are owed food, water, clothing, and shelter for working a full-time job. And, you are at least owed for that water not to be poisonous. But no one is sitting here saying, listen, everyone should just have free everything.
Number 8. If it involves the government in any way, that is not the fault of the free market. Number 9.
Define in any way.
The working class is all of America. The owning class is the government.
Which would still be part of all of America since it's the American government, but I'm nitpicking. Again, I've never heard the terms working and owning class used by anyone in the Bernie movement or in Justice Democrats or anywhere. Maybe you could find some Marxists using the term, but if you think Justice Democrats or Bernie Sanders supporters are the same as Marxists, you really don't seem to know what nuance is.
Number 10. Capitalism is a voluntary and consensual transaction resulting in the exchange of goods or services without government intervention. It has nothing to do with monetary hierarchy.
Well, it's arguable that monetary hierarchy is a definite in capitalism, but that's an argument for another day.
It has nothing to do with exploitation.
Again, it's debatable that that is a necessary component of a capitalist society at some point. They're exploiting you to make more money via voluntary transactions. At the very least, be honest with your opponent's argument is what I'm getting at.
Number 11. When McDonald's hires a million-man militia, sends that militia into a third world country to rape and pillage, and sends the survivors to be slaves on the cattle farms they get their beef from, then and only then can you talk to me about the evils of capitalism.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the government ever used slaves. Although, you know who I remember did use slaves? Plantation owners. Plantations were a business. So, yeah, and businesses are part of capital. Oh, crap.
Number 12. The way a capitalist makes money is by selecting a good or service that is already being provided and then giving the population that same good or service at a lower price and a higher quality than their competitors. They get rich off of making your lives better.
Or by their parents doing that and then them just inheriting all the money.
Number 13. The government bailed out Wall Street.
Okay, this is a very misleading picture to paint the Great Recession right here. While it is true the government did bail out Wall Street, the reason Wall Street needed bailouts to begin with was because they were selling subpar mortgages and hyping them up to be great, then betting on those mortgages failing. Again, that's a simplified version of the Great Recession, but that's basically what happened. Now, a government could have stepped in and said, hey, either stop betting on these mortgages failing, or hey, actively admit your mortgages aren't that good, and stop the whole process right there, but they didn't. For that matter, what about the Great Depression, which was caused by a stock market crash in the free market?
Capitalism would have let Wall Street fail.
And government could have also made it so they weren't selling subpar mortgages to begin with, meaning there would have never been a need to bail out Wall Street.
Number 14. The current system in America, aka pull yourself up by your bootstraps for the poor and socialism for the rich, that is not capitalism. Number 15.
No, it's the result of rich people buying out the government. via voluntary transactions, which you defined capitalism as earlier in the video. Wait a minute. And for that matter, again, it's arguable that that's an inevitability in capitalism, but again, that's an argument for another day. Or at the very least, anarcho-capitalism. I'm of course not talking about some capitalist societies with some amount of government regulations.
Despite its name, crony capitalism has absolutely nothing to do with capitalism.
But democratic socialism is the exact same as communism.
It is the act of a government selling away its power to the highest bidder
via voluntary transactions of goods and services. Wait a minute. Yeah, this actually does sound quite a bit like capitalism, just on a more extreme level. Wait.
That is not the fault of the free market. Number 16. This is a very, very simple concept. All gun control does is restrict the ability of law-abiding citizens to get guns. We live in the
I actually do agree with this point.
response time. If a criminal breaks into your house and you don't have a gun, you're likely what we call jolly well fucked. Gun control laws are not gun control laws. They are victim disarmament. Number 17. There is absolutely nothing about taxation that does not make it theft.
But remember, appeal to emotions are bad.
If you say, that's just the way it is,
which no one is saying, what I've actually heard is you cannot make a good nation that does not have taxes. But okay.
And by that same logic, I could say that a female born from a slave mother, born in the human trafficking ring, is going to get raped a lot in her lifetime. And that is okay, because that's just the way it is.
But once again, appeal to emotions are very, very bad. Now let me tell you about how taxation is on the same level as someone being born in human trafficking and being a sex slave.
Number 18. Equality and freedom cannot coexist.
But isn't capitalism supposed to have both default built-in equality and freedom, as in anyone can create a successful good or service and become successful by default?
For every 1 point in equality you gain, you trade away 2 points of freedom.
I genuinely don't think that's true. I assume you mean economic equality, but your wording here makes it sound like, say, equality between races or gender would also apply. Just choose your words a little bit better next time. And the video abruptly ends. And that is it. Overall, anarcho-capitalism is still an idiotic philosophy. And I want to stress, I am only talking about anarcho-capitalism. I don't believe all free market is bad. I think we should have quite a bit of free market. I'm saying, taking the side of all free market, no government, is a very extremist position that is downright idiotic. And that is it. I'm Cifro Joe, and good night.